I want to talk about something that happened with Bernie Sanders. Two things that happened with Bernie Sanders over the weekend. One on yesterday, Bernie Sanders was in an interview and they asked Bernie Sanders about Hillary Clinton's lead in the popular vote. And Bernie Sanders pointed out that the majority of her wins have come in the South. You would have thought that Bernie Sanders just outright called, you would have thought Bernie Sanders had outright just said, F the South. Everybody in the South ain't worth nothing. You would have thought that Bernie Sanders said, the South is predominantly black, or the majority of the Democratic support in the South comes from black people. So therefore, Bernie Sanders is saying that screw black people, we don't need them. There are a lot of pages of ink spilled over what Bernie Sanders said in regards to the South. There were dozens and hundreds of tweets over what Bernie Sanders said about the South. Now, let's unpack the frivolousness, the fatuousness of this faux outrage. Number one, the South is overwhelmingly the property of the Republican Party. Yes, I know Florida, Virginia, and North Carolina Florida and Virginia are solidly purple and they could swing either way. Yes, but those are not the only two states in the South. You take Georgia and you take Texas and you have more electoral votes than you do in Florida and Virginia. Boom. Georgia and Texas. People are saying, oh, they're getting ready to swing blue. Okay, if you really believe that they're getting ready to swing blue, then let's see how much money the Democratic Party puts into Texas and into Georgia. Let's see in this election how much they put. If they are so in love with the South, let's see how much money the DNC is going to put into Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. Because if it's so important to you, such that you want to feign all of this outrage over Bernie Sanders, then you damn well better be putting money in there such that you have a competitive edge instead of throwing all of your dollars into the swing states. And I'm not talking about the money that's going to trickle down for local elections. I'm talking about your presidential election. How much money are you going to put into Texas, into Mississippi out of your coffers designated for the presidential race? Because otherwise, you're just using this as another way to feign outrage at Bernie Sanders. Because you know what? This is what I realize about their criticisms of Bernie Sanders. They have to every single day give their supporters some red meat for them to hate Bernie Sanders. They have to. It's just like the team Hillary Clinton being run primarily by David Brock. This iteration of it, right? This public and social presence of Hillary Clinton's campaign is being probably managed by David Brock because his stink is all over it. They have to do and behave exactly like Republicans do and behave by constantly every single day feeding as much red meat to their base as possible to keep them from ever coming up from air. Every day it's about Bernie Sanders is the most disgusting misogynist ever, or he's the most disgusting racist ever. And every day he's doing something that's so terrible that we just can't believe that he's even in this race. Oh my God, Bernie Sanders hasn't released his tax returns. He's got to be the most evil person in the world, because he said something about the South, about her wins predominantly coming from the South, when they know full and well that all of the states that they celebrated Hillary Clinton winning, she will not win in the South in the general election. Maybe Florida, if she gets to the general election. Maybe Florida. Because you have to understand the way Barack Obama won. There's a lot of B's. We got a lot of presidents with B's in their names. The way Barack Obama won, particularly in 2012, but in 2008 as well, the way he won was by virtue of such an increase of the African-American vote. And as much as people are trying to make it seem like the African-American vote is locked up for Hillary Clinton, you do realize that a lot of them are just not going to vote. Not for Hillary Clinton. A lot of people who came out and voted for Barack Obama were first-time voters and probably won't vote again, particularly for someone who is as establishment as Hillary Clinton. Because contrary to popular belief, I know they're conservative Black people. I do know, but there are a lot of left-leaning, progressive, almost full-blown socialists. And when I say socialist in this regard, I mean Hugo Chavez socialist, like all the way left African Americans who came out and supported Barack Obama that are not going to come out and support Hillary Clinton. So even though Florida is up for grabs, you do realize that she does not have the baked advantages, with the exception of them running against Donald Trump, right? If she runs against Donald Trump, then fine. But this whole fake outrage about Bernie Sanders and him dismissing the South, the DNC has always after 1964, they gave up on the South. And you can tell by the money that they're going to put in this coming election. Look at the money that they put in and tell me if they give one rat's ass about some of those southern states that are not swing states. And so the reality of it is they are only concerned with southern swing states. They don't have this newfound love for all of the South. No. Because they know they could throw in $10 million into Mississippi, which is a small media network, right? Media region, and still lose Mississippi. They're not going to put that money in Mississippi. So all this faux outrage. And Bill Mon1 on Twitter, let me go back to his tweet because he said it so brilliantly. He said it better than I could. Because I want to show you the hypocrisy, and I want to show you this daily hypocrisy with which they hit Bernie Sanders. He said, Bill Mon1 said, you don't understand. Arguing Bernie only wins white states is perfectly okay. But arguing that Hillary Clinton depends on Southern votes is evil. That's the game. That's the game. Because all along, they have been dismissing Vermont, Wyoming, Wisconsin. They even dismiss Hawaii. They dismiss every single state that Bernie Sanders wins as a white state. That's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if Bernie Sanders even says or alludes to the fact that Hillary Clinton's wins are coming from the South, i.e., she's not going to win them in the general election, then all of a sudden Bernie Sanders is the worst person in the world. And I'm only going to talk about this other one real quick, and then I'm going to take this call. And then 510, I'll unblock you. You could call back. The whole thing with the Vatican. And actually, no, I want to call names. What's her name? Margaret Archer? Let's see if I remember that name correctly. God, dog it. If there's ever a name I remembered that one. So, Bernie Sanders got invited to the Vatican to speak on creating a more just economic society. He did not get invited by the Pope to come meet with the Pope, but he did get an invitation from the Vatican to come speak at this conference. A worker for the same portion of the Vatican, here it is, the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. Margaret Archer, who's the president of the Pontifical Academy of Social Scientists, says that Bernie Sanders committed a tremendous dishonor by inviting himself. Turns out Margaret Archer is a direct supporter of Hillary Clinton, right? Nobody's going to tell you that. She's a supporter of Hillary Clinton, number one. Number two, her boss said that Margaret Archer knows that she's lying. Knows that this invitation came from his offices. Bernie Sanders produced the document. He got invited by the Vatican. He did not get invited by the Pope. Now, yes, Bernie Sanders went on The View, and whatever, I can't remember her name, she said, oh, you got invited by the Pope. And Bernie Sanders said yes. End of the world. Oh my God, Bernie Sanders conflated the Vatican with the Pope and the Pope with the Vatican, and he just said yes. He must absolutely be the Satan incarnate. I mean, Bernie Sanders is the most dishonorable, dishonest bastard we've ever met. How could he ever run for president when he can conflate the Vatican with the Pope and the Pope with the Vatican? Just another example of the daily outrage they have to feed you. And when I say they, let me be expressly specific. The Democratic establishment, the media establishment, and Team Hillary Clinton, they have a need to feed you daily outrage against Bernie Sanders in order to make Hillary Clinton look better, one, and in order for the conversation never to be forwarded so that you would ever consider what Bernie Sanders is saying. In other words, they keep you so mad you won't give them an honest look. And that's the game they will forever play. That's the game they play with the Republican Party, knowing full and damn well some of their policies are identical to what the Republican Party would do. I'm sure there's 100 other things I could say about that, but let me take this caller.